So another really interesting thing we can do with story is we can do nonlinear camera editing as well. So in addition to doing nonlinear character animation, I can also create a camera track or a shot track. So what I'm going to do is just insert a shot track, and with the shot track I'm going to load in a series of cameras. So I'll just go into my asset browser over here, and under elements I should have a camera node, so I can just drop a camera into my scene. So there's camera 1 here, and I can just loosely position that. I'll just drop camera 2 over here and just loosely position that, and I'll just take camera 3 and I'll just throw it up over here. There we go. So now I've got 3 cameras, and I want to take each one of these cameras and I want to drop those into my timeline and just start to associate those with my clips. So let's just give myself a little bit more screen space here. So basically I'm talking about roughly 70 frames of animation. So I'm just going to set my timeline to about 70 here. I'll just make it 80 just to give myself a little buffer. And then I'll just go into my shot track, and I basically want to align these clips within those 70-80 frames. So I'm going to take each one of these clips and I'll make the first one roughly, let's say, 25 frames. I'll make the second one, roughly 25, 30 frames, and then I'll just tack the last one on to the end and just make that the full 80 frames. So basically each one of these clips represents a camera. If I just right click on this, I can just say make camera current, and I can view out of that camera. Then I can use this as a way to position the camera interactively. But what I want to do is actually have the camera switcher keep track of which camera is active based on these clips. So I'll just right click and I'll say make camera switcher current. And now as I scrub through the timeline, you can see that each camera gets swapped out when I reach the associated clip. So now I can basically just take my various cameras, and I'll take this first camera and I'll create kind of an establishing shot. So actually I want to go kind of from the point of view maybe over here on the park area, and I want to get kind of an establishing shot, and I can scrub through this and see. So I get a nice open view of the girl kind of jumping in for the kick, and then right before she's about to kick, I want to switch to a different camera. So this camera now, I want to actually do like an over-the-shoulder shot, and I want to view the girl actually kicking the guy. So I'll kind of do a close-up here, and now you can see that as I scrub through, she kicks the guy. I have a nice close-up shot, and then as he falls, I want to switch to another shot of him falling towards the ground. So now let's just get a nice low shot here, and I'll just let this play through a little bit, and I want to just kind of focus right in on the guy as he's falling to the ground there. And now if I play this back, you can see all 3 of them in sequence. So I can start with, oops, I need to extend my clip there a little bit. I can start with camera 1, which is back, cut into a close-up camera, and then cut into a low camera for the actual fall of the guy. So I can rearrange these and resequence these to actually change the timing of the cameras. You can also do interesting things like cross dissolves as well. So ultimately I need to get all this back into Maya. Now in order to get it into Maya and have it work correctly, we have to actually plot all this various animation down to their targets. So we've got quite a bit going on here. We've basically got a live retarget of the kick animation to the girl. We've got a live retarget of the fall animation to the guy. And then we've got non-linear editing of the cameras with the camera switcher, which I want to basically preserve as well when I send this back to Maya. So I'm going to go through a series of plots here. So first of all, we'll work with the characters. I'm going to take my HIK character, which is basically the character out of Maya, and I'm going to plot this animation, or bake it, as it's called in Maya, to the control rig of the character so that we can send this back to the control rig in Maya. Now for the guy, I'm going to do this a little differently. He's called character. I'm just going to plot this one to the skeleton. And the reason I'm doing that is just to show the various ways that we can get animation in and out of MotionBuilder, between MotionBuilder and Maya. So again, the girl has rig animation, the guy has simple skeleton animation, and then lastly I want to take all the clip animation and I want to preserve that as well, the camera shot animation. So right now it's live nonlinear camera switching. So what I want to do is plot all this to the camera switcher, and I just want to be aware of what take I'm working on, which is represented right here. The take represents the sequence of animation. We could have multiple takes on any given object. So I'm going to plot this to take 1. And then lastly, I just want to convert this camera switcher to a regular camera. So I'll just go in here under my cameras. I'll just find the camera switcher, and I'll just right-click, say plot to new camera, and now I'll get a new camera out of that. So rather than just calling it a generic name here, I'm just going to rename this to something like Maya Shot Cam or whatever. It doesn't really matter. So now, just to do a little bit of house cleaning, I'm going to go into the schematic view. And the schematic view is basically a diagram or a node view of everything in my scene. And I'm going to get rid of things I don't really care about anymore. So I'm going to get rid of all the extra cameras that I created. And then also I've got these skeletons here and here, which represent the motion capture skeletons. I don't need those, so I can just delete those. I'll just go in and do a quick delete. And now if I go back to my regular perspective view, and let's just view everything through the Maya shot cam, play this back, and now you can see that I have all my animation intact. I have the camera baked, I have the rig animation baked, and I have the skeleton animation baked. And then I can save this out and merge it back into Maya. So I'll just go up over here, I'll just do a save as, and we'll just put this on the desktop right next to our other file. We'll call this file test2, which will be the file going from MotionBuilder back to Maya. Okay, so we're back on the Maya side, and you can see here that I have not changed this file. This is the exact same file right where we left it, and you can see here I've got the rig animation on the girl. So I've done all this editing in MotionBuilder, and now I want to basically splice this into my Maya scene. So if I just go to my file import, and I just set this to FBX format, and I'll just find the file that I exported out of MotionBuilder, test2, import that in. One thing I want to be sure of, a couple of things actually, is I want to make sure I bring in all the animation. I want to make sure that I bring in the character definition, which is the rig information. And then lastly, for file content, I want to choose add and update. What that will do is that anything new it finds, such as the camera that I created, it will add it to the scene. Anything that coexists in this scene and the imported file will get merged together. So in other words, all the animation from the rig that I edited and the skeleton that I edited in MotionBuilder will get spliced right into the scene in Maya. Okay, so now you can see here that if I pull back, I've got the exact same animation once again that I had in MotionBuilder. So I've also got a camera here, which I can't really see right now, but if I just come in here under my perspective views, I'll switch to my Maya shot cam. And there's the camera that I started with in Maya. And there's the shot sequence with the animated camera. So you can see there that I also have animation directly on this skeleton, and then this girl actually is an animated rig. So if I just grab any control object, not only is the rig animated, but I can actually grab the control object and I can begin to edit the rig as well. So once again, this is just an example of the round tripping of animation and data back and forth between Maya and MotionBuilder.